What's going on, everybody? Here today, I want to come talk to you guys about my Redcat Blackout. So I bought this car probably a couple of months ago. It had a brushed motor in it. I ran it one time with the brushed motor in it, and I went ahead and I just ordered a 2S LiPo motor from GoRC. And I put everything in, and the motor and everything works fine. But here's what I'm finding right here. Right here, let me get something to point to this, is this little screw that goes into this hole that holds this drive shaft that goes inside the differential, and the drive shaft connects into here. The problem that I'm having is once I assembled all of this stuff back, it seems like the motor has way too much torque for this little screw to hold it in place. So if I put the battery in, turn this on, everything works fine. Now, if I take this off, that's what I get. And I guess because now that there's pressure on everything and the wheels are on the ground and there's resistance that's, going against all of the working mechanics, I think this part right here is shuddering and it's kind of skipping, so it's not allowing it to drive really smooth. So what I'm going to do, because with all of these RC cars that I find, is this. It's like you have all of this power, all of these batteries, everybody's into the batteries and the power, but the rest of it is garbage. I mean, it's not going to hold it. They don't design these things. They have all these 8S, 6S, all these big motors and batteries and stuff. But the working mechanics of these cars, it just seems like it can't handle it. And, I'm just finding out in this RC world that this is a major problem. So it's not deterring me. And the reason why it's taking me so long to make a video is because I've just been studying what this is all about, just looking over different vehicles and seeing how they did things and what can be improved and everything else. So I went out and I bought a bunch of 3D printers, and I'm still working on building one where I can print with, the higher filaments that can take more temperature, like polycarbonate and other things. So that's what I'm doing right now. And if anybody has any advice, anything that they can tell me, if you ran into this same problem yourself, how did you overcome it? But for me, I feel like this drive shaft here and all of these interconnecting parts and things like that, they just need to be eliminated. I don't understand why this doesn't bolt onto anything. It's like the things that actually run the car that are essential to it moving, it's kind of like everything is snapped in or have some kind of cotter pin or something to that effect. And that's another thing too that bothers me about all of these cars, is just like here. The only thing that's holding this drive shaft, this lower control arm, is this pin. And there's nothing to stop this pin from backing out. And it backs out all of the time. So, once again, if you guys have any information on how you're stopping these pins from backing out, let me know. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to redesign an entire mount so that these pins are covered some kind of way. And also what I'm going to do too is I am going to try to make this all one piece. Just straight from inside the differential gear, coming out of this little motor and spur gear housing, because the spur gear is on a cone gear on a rod, there's a washer, not a washer, but a bearing on either side of this. A little cotter pin holds the spur gear to that rod, and then this screws in, and there's a flat part where it's supposed to go into, but then if you pull it all the way out to get to the flat part, there's nothing that holds the bearing in. So I've looked at this design multiple times online. I've contacted Red Cat. They say that, you know, the newer cars are going to have upgrades. I don't know. The ESCs, I'm going to just take this totally out, and I think I'm going to run this car for Arduino board. And that's what I'm basically getting into. I'm getting into taking these cars and adding the computer element to it, because there's so much more out there besides this, you know. And the only thing that makes these cars fun and functional is the power and the ability to drive them wherever you want to. But it's not fun when they constantly keep breaking down. And it seems like with me, I can run my RC cars maybe a handful of times before something goes wrong with it, and that just aggravates me. So if you guys got any advice for me, please comment down below. Let me know. But I am working on some things, and I'll show you guys some time-lapse video of the stuff that I'm working on to kind of take what we do in robotics and what you guys do with RCs and kind of combine them, because I really think it really needs an upgrade. So I've been talking about this since my first video, but I'm actually now doing it, you know. So I'm printing things, I'm prototyping stuff, I'm seeing what works, what fits, stronger control arms, these little dog bone pieces here, you know. I'm trying to figure out, you know, ways to lengthen those, because what I want to do on this Blackout here is, now that this big motor is in here, it's so powerful, and this is why this probably went bad, I'm going to extend this wheel, the whole assembly out about 1.5 more inches. And that's just so that when I am driving it, it doesn't just spins in circles all the time, because there's so much power and the tires are so small. And also I'm going to change that. I'm going to put larger tires on there. But what I'm thinking about doing, and if anyone knows, let me know if you've done this type of thing. Traxxas, I mean, they're just the leaders with what they're doing and what they put into their cars, and that's why everybody buy them, and they're still the king. And I'm thinking about changing out these dog bones and using a Traxxas differential so that I can screw directly into the differential and run a hub out into this wheel, so I have a larger bolt to put on here to hold the wheel in. And I think I'm gonna bump these wheels up. I think this right here is probably about 2 inches. So I'm going to see about adding some 4-inch wheels and tires on here that I'm going to make myself. And also I'm going to change this whole housing, how this works. I'm actually going to put a bigger spur gear, meaning a wider one. So I'm going to eliminate all of this right here. But and I think that will alleviate the spur gears from going bad, because it seems like all of the pinion gears that mounts to the motor are almost twice the width of a spur gear. So that's what I'm working on. Stay tuned to this upgrade where I'm going to mod it out with my own parts. And first I needed to learn a little bit more about what's out there, what's available, what can be done, because like I told you guys, I was into RCing way back in the day, probably about 15 years ago, when the Traxxas Revo 3.3 first came out. So it seems like now this industry is huge and there's a lot going on, and I want to be a part of it. So, and then too, it's a good break from what I do for a living. So if you have any advice for me, parts, things you've done, what you would suggest, elements of problems that you find with these cars that you would do. I know that there's guys who have been into RCing for a while. You guys have way more information than me. So share that with me. Maybe we can build something good. And if we do, I can make you some parts and just send them to you and we can test them out together. So let me know what you think. And until next time, you guys be good and stay safe out there.